episode 18. I'll be your host, Brendan McShane. And we're here to go through the latest crypto and blockchain news so you don't have to. Everything from blockchain, digital assets, fintech, crypto, DEXs, DeFi, and all the above. But if you want to help with your private placements, alternative investments, or category design, please check out Dealbox and watch our live streams, listen to the podcast, and read the blog. If you want to learn more about Dealbox, go to dealbox.io. And here we kick it off with episode 18, article 1. Facebook definitely looking at NFTs, says executive. Facebook is considering multiple options to introduce NFTs as it finds itself in a really good position to do so, quote. Marcus said in a Bloomberg television interview, when you have a good wallet like Novi, you also think about how you will help consumers support NFTs. So Facebook first launched the idea of holding a crypto with Libra 2 years ago, but now they renamed it Diem, and their wallet is Novi. So their original plan was to have a stable coin using a couple of different fiat currencies, US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, British pound, Singapore dollar, but they were due to regulatory pushback. Now just Diem is going to be pegged on the US dollar. It's still not released yet and still pending. Novi, however, seems to be ready to be released based on other announcement that Facebook has announced, but they're ready for Diem. They want to launch them both at once, hoping that both of them are compatible and will help build their product. However, going back to the NFTs though, Facebook does have a good platform for launching NFTs. They're already a social media site, and Instagram is made for pictures. So utilizing Facebook's marketplace and Instagram's social media just for photos would be a great place to display artwork and projects using NFTs. So I think they have a lot of potential here. They're really going after a good market, and this is something they should definitely go after. They're right now under scrutiny, though, for antitrust, so I don't know how forward they're going to be about pushing new projects until the antitrust lawsuit goes through, but we're going to have to see. And also they're still holding back from Diem's regulatory problems. Bitcoin hash rate triples since June 28th in recovery from China syndrome. The recovery of the Bitcoin hash rate means that the network is much more secure and harder to attack. The average Bitcoin hash rate, the amount of computing power in the network, hits an all-time high, and it is down from the slump of more than 65% from mining rigs across China when they were down from the Great Miner Migration. China recently cracked down on a lot of Bitcoin mining due to electrical reasons and environmental reasons. So it requires a lot of power, and China is not exactly pro-crypto either. But it's a good thing that we see that the hash rate is going back up, especially to an all-time high. That means that the network is now more secure and can defend against the 51% attack. 51% attack is when one entity has 51% of the computing power across all the Bitcoin mining nodes. And if they do have that, then they would be able to go back in time and pull out old Bitcoins that no longer are being used. So when they do say the supply, though, of Bitcoin, you might read it regularly, it says this ultimate supply could be 21 million. That's not entirely true. The supply is actually 28 million, but 7 million of those coins have been truly deemed as lost forever due to people throwing out their hardware, their hard drives, and losing their private keys. From when Bitcoin first initially started, people weren't as good with managing it, didn't think it was becoming anything. So 7 million are missing. But going back to, if you have 51%, you'd be able to go back to the network and take those coins and get the private keys for them and bring them back. You would also be able to manipulate transactions, so you'd be able to send someone money and then go back into the mining nodes and then mine back a few blocks and then get those Bitcoins actually back into your address, even though that the other person has confirmed that the transaction went through. That's why it's usually standard that when you buy or spend or send Bitcoin, you should really wait for 3 or 4 blocks to be mined first to make sure that nobody's playing any games and mining back on the blocks, because they can do that. It's difficult, and you don't exactly need 51%, but you need really 51% if you really want to mine back far enough. So this just secures Bitcoin more. Another thing to think about, though, when it comes to mining in Bitcoin, in the future, something that's going to be a bit wary. So every 4 years, the amount that rewarded to the miners gets halved. And they said, okay, in about 100-something years, it's going to be 0. But before then, it really will be almost 0, because it's going to get to a very small number that might as well be 0. So people are going to have to run the entire network based on tips. And we're going to have to see how that's going to play out, because that's going to come in like 20 or 30 years that these tips are going to be running the Bitcoin network instead of the mining rewards. And the tips are going to have to be a lot of money. They're going to be hundreds or thousands of dollars per transaction if you want to be sending Bitcoin. and people are not going to be then using it for daily transactions unless they have wrapped Bitcoin, but across the actual network itself, and you're going to send it maybe once or twice ever. People are going to hold it like gold then. The problem with that, of having really expensive transactions and the entire network being based on transaction fees, is that it might decrease the amount of miners on the network because they're not going to make as much money, and it requires a lot of electricity to process these payments. And then the real problem is going to be coming then 51% attack. So we're going to look at that 20 or 30 years from now. But it's definitely something to think about, especially when it comes to Bitcoin's proof of work. And I know I don't have an extreme amount of knowledge on this, but getting their network to update is very difficult. And people who are true Bitcoin holders and love it to death don't really want to change, but that is a problem to think about in the future. Second largest U.S. mortgage lender to take Bitcoin payments, United Wholesale Mortgage, the second largest mortgage lender in the U.S., announced it had plans to accept cryptocurrency as payment for mortgage loans last week. The company expects to accept Bitcoin as soon as Q3 of 2021 and is looking to possibly accepting Ether and other cryptocurrencies as well. It is unclear if the company will hold the cryptocurrency collected as is. This is something I touched on before, is companies accepting cryptocurrency, but really, will they hold it? Will they just get it and sell it immediately into cash? Will they sell partial? What would they do? What are they going to do with it? Probably going to sell them. I'm guessing with this one. This being the second largest mortgage lender in the U.S., they're going to want to work with fiat. I think they're using Bitcoin. Yeah, they're getting in there. They're getting into the market and seeing how well it works. I think they're kind of putting their feet in the water and seeing how this will all work out in the future. Don't think this is going to be it is a huge push forward to see people paying crypto for their homes. It's great. That has a use. But I don't think this company's going to be holding it. It's good news, though. Definitely a large company. There is a problem, though. However, there is a roadblock for the adoption of cryptocurrency payments in the U.S. It can be considered property in the country, and paying with crypto can be considered a sale. This means that depending on the buying price, crypto holders might have to pay capital gains tax even when using Bitcoin payments for their mortgage loans. That's true with selling it to fiat or exchanging it for another token on Uniswap or another DEX. Every single time there's a transaction with cryptocurrency, since it's considered an asset, you have to pay taxes on it, on any capital gains. But that's with anything. It's like being able to pay your mortgage with a stock almost. That's the way it's being treated. So you're going to have to pay capital gains no matter what. But watch out for the capital gains, because you have to be holding it for more than a year to pay capital gains tax. If it's under a year, then you're paying income tax on that. So just heads up. A little more fun though. Budweiser uses $120K to purchase fan art, NFT, and beer.eth domain. According to reports from OpenSea Marketplace, the beer producer purchased a Budweiser brand rocket ship NFT for 8 ETH, about $25,000 at the time. And let's just take a look at the image. There's no reason to read it anymore there. And this is how much they paid, $25,000 for this photo, and made it their Twitter handle. This is following Visa's $125,000 payment for a CryptoPunk. I think this one's a little better. Visa was more of making a shock to the community that they're going to be looking into crypto, but I think that this one is more of I think Budweiser gets the community a little even better by going for a lower end NFT, but paying a high price for it, and the drawing itself is perfect. I couldn't imagine a better drawing. But on top of that, as we mentioned, they also did buy an ENS domain, and they purchased that for 30 ETH, around $96,000 at the time. And this is really where it's going to be interesting with the ENSs and how much they're going to be used in the future. That is an Ethereum name service. Think like a domain name. I've checked these out. They've already been looted mostly. People have done the same thing when the internet first came out. They bought all the popular names. And look, companies are already starting to get into it, and they're already going to start paying out these people who held them for a while. $96,000 for beer.eth. Let's see how much they're going to pay for like cars.eth or house.eth. We'll have to see in the future, but I think it's going to be a lot of money. I think those who bought it, they're going to do well. And at the bottom here, we mentioned Zed Run before, and Stella Artois did have this came out a little bit ago, but I thought it was interesting. Stella Artois did team up with Zed Run to make a Stella Artois horse, which is interesting to have a horse beer stamped on his butt, but why not? Citigroup files to trade Bitcoin futures, says clients are increasingly interested in cryptocurrency. So Citigroup is reportedly awaiting regulatory approval to start offering Bitcoin futures trading to its clients. We are presently considering products such as futures for some of the institutional clients, as these operate under strong regulatory frameworks. Our clients are increasingly interested in this space, and we are monitoring these developments. Citigroup was quoted by this news outlet as saying, given the many questions around the regulatory framework, supervisory expectations and other factors, we are being very thoughtful about our approach. The brand independent. This would be interesting if they're able to sell Bitcoin futures, but a lot of companies have had problems with the Bitcoin futures, Bitcoin trading, ETFs. Institutional-wise, regulatory-wise, it's rough. We'll see how fast this actually moves forward. It's good to see that they're actually looking into this. I know I can't find it on the mention, but here it is. They did earlier in June say that they established a digital assets group within the wealth management movement, but this is also because their clients are asking for it. So you know what? Give the people what they're asking for. They want to invest in cryptocurrencies through these trusted institutions, which is understandable because these people probably have millions and millions of dollars, and they're not going to want to hopping on Coinbase, which is something that they don't fully understand. They trust Citi. They're already going through them, and other investment banks. So on our next episode, Monday, August 30th, have a good weekend, and I'll see you then.